38 years ordained now, and I've done well over 500 weddings during my course of, and I think over half of them had this passage. So yes, it's very popular. It's a reading about the gift of love. The first thing we have to say, though, this is not written to a couple getting married. This was written to a congregation who had problems. And Paul is talking about the best way of using people's gifts in God's service, the best way for people in the church to avoid the arguments and the dissent that they were having there. They were all at each other's throats, goodness me. The best way to stop criticizing one another, and the best way for everyone to feel valued. Now, I know this church doesn't have this sort of problem. But anyway, I'm going to speak. The best way is love. Because if you're a member of a church congregation, it doesn't matter how gifted you are or how diligent and zealous in your service you may be, if you're not loving towards other people in the church, says Paul, you're nothing. You gain nothing. It's of no credit to you at all. In fact, you're like somebody who keeps blowing on and banging on like a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal, making lots of full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. That is a quote from Shakespeare, just in case you like Shakespeare. To other members of the church, you may appear to be a big noise, but actually what you do has no value, says Paul. So, we're going to have a congregational Ofsted this morning. Maybe it should be called off church. But actually off church was where we used to go for retreats in Oxford. And you too, John, probably. And off church was exactly what used to happen there as well, in my memory. Does that reading describe you? Now, this is what I do when this passage is chosen. I say, actually, here's something you can do to find how you relate to one another. And here, it's how you relate to other church members. Place your own name in place of the word love in the reading. Okay? And assess the truth of the resulting statement on a scale of 1 to 5. 1, strongly agree. 5, strongly disagree. Okay, let's see how I get on. Steve is not proud. That's kind of middling, I think. Steve is not self-seeking. Well, that's more like a 2, I reckon. Steve is not irritable. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. That's a 1. Strongly disagree with that one. Steve is patient and kind. Steve does not keep a record of wrongs. Flo, you're quite right. No, you're quite right to speak out. How did you get on? Not good. Not good. There is this performance gap, isn't there? We say we love one another as a congregation, and actually, it's very difficult to do so. Now, here's a real challenge. This is not for the faint-hearted. Think of somebody you don't get on with. No, there are people that you don't get on with. I can assure you of that. Everybody here. Right. Ask yourself, am I patient with him or with her? Am I kind to him or to her? Do I or do I not insist on my own way with him or her? Have I got a record of wrongs stashed up in a secure file locked in my memory that all relate to him or her? You see, when we listen to that reading, what I think of all the time is Jesus. That sounds like Jesus, doesn't it? Jesus was patient. Jesus was kind. Jesus never insisted on his own way. He kept no record of wrongs. He always protected, always persevered, always trusted. He never boasted. He was never proud. That all fits, doesn't it? And we know a bit about Jesus' life, of all of us who come here this morning. We can think about stories when Jesus was like that, when he showed that sort of determined compassion to lepers and to the needy and to sick and to outcasts and all that. Yeah, it fits. And God's great plan for us all, whether we're married or not, is that we should become more like him. More Christ-like. As it used to say in the old ASB prayers, that we may serve Christ in one another and love as he loves us. Let's all resolve to do that in our church. As for couples getting married here, there are ways you can help. There really are. In saying their vows, you see, couples effectively say, Rachel's listening to this with real trepidation. Effectively, they say, I'm going to try and be like Jesus to you. And I'll ask her, will you love him? We're talking here about Malcolm. Will you love him, comfort him, honour and protect him, and forsaking all others, be faithful to him as long as you both shall live? In other words, are you going to be like God, like Jesus, in your comforting and protecting and loving and being faithful? And she will say, I will. That's my resolve. And it is an attitude of mind when we try to love people. And actually in the congregation, it is an attitude of mind. It's a resolve. Difficult though I find this person, my resolution is to treat them like Jesus would treat everyone. In a marriage, you've got that love for one another to start with, so you're on just an advantage really. But it's still a resolution. It's still a resolve. Will you pray for these couples who get married here? That's what you can do. Pray that God's love would indeed be by God's Spirit in their hearts. Second thing, we got 15 weddings this year, and 5 of them, the couples, are attending our church as a prelude to their wedding. Do you know their names? Well, Rachel and Malcolm, Rachel's here, so that's one for a start. Matt and Lucy are getting married in September. That's another one. They're coming here. A number of other couples have been here. Girl with red hair, Siobhan. Yeah, and Matthew, do you remember them? They came at 8 o'clock quite a lot. There's some others, Juliet and, what's his name? Craig. They're getting married next month. Yeah, you see, you can get to know them, and the great thing is we're good at that. We do coffee, we do get to know people, we say hello to them. Do you remember David Ford and Charlotte? David was very Welsh. They keep coming. They still come. They're coming to have their child baptized, Thomas William Ford, who looks like a prop forward. And which, is great, isn't it? And they're coming to be baptized. I met yesterday, I counted 6 couples who got married in this church at the summer fair, including the ones who appeared on Don't Tell the Bride, Sam and Luann, which is great that they want to come and support the church. Isn't it fantastic? So well done, everybody. We're good at welcoming people. We've had 3, I think now, confirmed, 3 blokes confirmed because they came here to church and got into it and got married. Let's thank God for these people and pray for them, all of them. That'd be good. And we're going to do that now in our prayers. Let us pray. And firstly, a prayer for all those who get married in our church, especially those this year, and particularly for Rachel this morning.